today coffee is an essential part of our life, but it wasn't always that way, or it wasn't always this high of a quality. Today I'm here to spill the beans and tell you all about the rise of Nespresso. Over the years, a lot of people think that Nespresso just came across. Americans drink more than 440 million cups of coffee each and every single day. Some choose to go to Starbucks, others choose to go to their local coffee shops, and many choose to do it at home or at the office using an espresso machine. You know those pods that you've always seen? They are a multi-billion-dollar industry, and today we're going to talk about the rise, the problems, and the future of Nespresso. Here's what I find really fascinating. Back in 2011, single-serve coffee machines were in about 7% of American households. Today, or back in 2020, as the latest data that we have, about 40% of American households have a single-serve machine. That doesn't count all the other drip machines, that doesn't count espresso machines. And the premiumization of, is that a word, of coffee has been at an all-time high, especially since and post-pandemic. See, people now look at coffee the same way they look at wine. They look at all these different origins, they see all this specialty, and they started falling in love with the flavor, partially because of culture, partially because of the internet, and this fascination and love we have for everything. If you love coffee, you're going to be obsessed with coffee. If you love matcha, you're going to be obsessed with matcha. We no longer are our parents, where we used to just drink coffee because we have to, and eat whatever food we can, because now we're obsessed with everything, right? That's what the internet did for us. How does an espresso machine work? It looks very complicated, and some parts of it are very sophisticated and others are incredibly simple. You see, when you take down a Nespresso machine, it all starts with a vibration pump that takes the water out of the tank, and the loud noise that you hear is the pump basically moving the water through the different compartments with what we call a vibration pump. And Nespresso's machines have this wonderful thing called a very express water boiler that gets hot very quick and boils your water at uncontrollable temperatures. But that's not an issue because the temperature in this scenario doesn't matter. Whereas a regular fancy premium espresso machine, temperature has to be regulated between an interval of temperatures to get you a real espresso. But in this case, it's not really important. So it's not precise, but it's fast. The process starts with the vibration water pump that takes water out of the tank, moves it into the water boiler, and quickly pumps it into the infusion station, which is really unique. That's where a lot of the sophistication happens here. So Nestle, that owns Nespresso, a company that you all probably love because we love Nestle. They're so ethical. And then we get to the infusion part of the machine, which is usually on the high front side. And that's where really all the magic happens. You see, Nestle, which owns Nespresso, has a lot of technology and therefore a lot of patents. So that's why other companies can't access that technology. When you insert a pod, it basically falls into place. And then the machine pierces that pod in 3 different places, evenly distributing the water to the ground coffee inside the pod, and therefore creating espresso. The way that the espresso is made here and the pressure is applied, on the other side of the pod, there is this waffle-like wall. And the waffle wall isn't pushed onto the pod by anything. In fact, this pre-infusion process happens where water infuses the pod, and then the espresso is starting to be made, and then it pushes through the waffle wall and it disperses the coffee into your cup, which therefore creates that creamy, beautiful espresso that we all love today. But it wasn't always that way. See, back in the day, the American market was dominated by Keurig. In fact, to this day, K-Cups or Keurig dominates a lot of the American market. But Keurig is the most nostalgic American product. It is the best way that most Americans consume coffee until they try Nespresso. And then Keurig dominated the US market for the longest until their patent expired in about 2013, and then in 2014 enters Nespresso to the American market, a company that has existed in Europe for a very long time. In fact, Nespresso started in 1975, extraction process right at home for the wealthy rich instead of going to an espresso bar. One of Nespresso's early CEOs, Jean-Paul Gillard, actually, in his own words, said that their target consumer is a wealthy consumer that is so rich that they have a doorman. A very unique way to describe someone rich. In today's world, you'd say someone with a G-Wagon and bad style, but that's for another conversation. For many Gen Zers like myself, we think that Nespresso is just a modern company that just came around a few years ago, and they have these fancy, unnecessarily fancy stores in modern American malls, and they have these fancy gold-looking pods, and they're always on discount on Black Friday. In fact, like I mentioned, the company started back in 1975, and it sustainably grew until what it is today. You see, the American way of drinking coffee is a big XXL cup from a gas station, let's say 7-Eleven, and you put 6 pumps of vanilla and 2 pumps of caramel and 1 pump of salted cereal simple syrup. And then of course you have to add 2 pumps of liquid sugarcane and a lot of whole milk and a hint of drip coffee. And that was the American way of drinking coffee. But you see, now in the past 10 years, espresso has been taken over because people have been falling in love, because Americans have started to romanticize their coffee rituals and they want a better experience for themselves, thanks to Starbucks and Blue Bottle and a bunch of other brands that I don't remember, because coffee is what you deserve, and it's only for a low price of $10 plus tip for a nice little caramel iced latte. Nespresso understood that the American consumer likes a big cup of coffee, unlike the Europeans that like a small espresso shot. And so they created and introduced in 2014 their Virtuoso lineup. Basically has the capability of creating a large coffee cup using their espresso technology. What's really interesting is that Nespresso's machines are really not that expensive to begin with. They start all the way from $50 in some Black Friday offers and go all the way up to $850 for premium coffee. And their pods range between 79 cents to $2, so it's definitely on the premium side. The trick here, where they get you, is unlike Keurig that has pods under $1 and they're even larger in size, Nespresso is all about how much time they're saving you and how much money they're saving you by comparing themselves to a fancy coffee shop. You see, they don't look at their price as it's $2 for a pod without the milk and the time and the electricity and the water and everything else. Probably adds up to $3 or $4. What they look at is you would have paid $6, $7, $8 if you went Starbucks plus a tip plus a drive. You have that at your house. That is their marketing. They do that from the language on the pods to the language in their marketing to the language on the actual packaging of their Nespresso machines. Because breaking it down and being honest, Nespresso offers one of the best easy espresso experiences at home. I will always prefer using my fancy espresso machine that I worked very hard for, but for the regular consumer or the office person, Nespresso is the closest you can get to instantly affordable, good premium coffee. And what a lot of these documentaries about Nespresso get wrong is that there is so much technology that goes into the pod. There's so many patents that no one has access to, where the pressure created by the silicone casket on each pod and on the machine creates this pressure unlike any other, creating the best extraction of coffee. Moreover, when you go deep inside the pod, let's dissect the pod and go right into it. They do source their coffee from pretty nicely sourced coffee places and they have very unique technology, millions of dollars invested in how they grind their coffee, how they package their coffee, and how the pod overall works together to deliver the best extraction possible. Where Nespresso fails is they can never compete with the quality of a locally sourced, locally roasted coffee. Back in 2018 is when everything takes a turn. Nespresso was not a big player in the US market, which is known to be one of the most profitable markets for any consumer brand. But everything changed when Nestle, the parent company of Nespresso, struck a licensing deal with Starbucks for about $7.58 billion for all of Starbucks' retail rights. And just in the year 2022, they sold over $4 billion in Starbucks retail products. And that is what truly positioned Nespresso as a leading force in single-serve coffee machines in the United States. The impact that all these pods have on the environment is absolutely outrageous. They're very, very bad for the environment. In fact, the original inventor of the Keurig K-Cup actually said in an interview to The Atlantic that he regrets inventing the entire technology because of how bad it is for the environment. And there's been so many attempts for years and years and years to make it more sustainable by promising to recycle all the pods. Problem about a pod being recyclable is it actually being recycled? And according to the data that my wonderful underpaid writers had access to, shows that about 36% of Nespresso consumers are actively recycling their pods with all these programs that Nestle and Nespresso do. Whether you like Nestle or not, that's a conversation for another video. But I do have to say that my personal opinion goes to, we shouldn't always blame companies for everything. At the end of the day, brands, including Stanley, are co-created with the consumer. We bring up a brand, we make it a daily habit, we talk about it. We also have the power to hold things accountable and either change them, request for change, find ways around it, but you can't constantly blame the brands for having to fix everything. And at the moment, I see, according to data, that 36% of Nespresso pods are being recycled, and it's rising, and they're made out of aluminum, not plastic. Not bad. Now, one final bonus for today's video. The future of coffee and the war of these massive brands fighting for a space in our kitchen is going to be one to watch for. In fact, I believe that us, the consumer, will always win, benefiting from all these different companies fighting for our voice, fighting for a place in our life. The quality is only going to go up because competition invites innovation, and innovation invites technology, which means that we're always going to benefit. The fight for a cold coffee. Right now, you could argue, yes, Pierre, you could take an espresso machine, you can put a shot over ice, and then turn it into an iced latte, but technically you'll be melting the ice and creating a more watered down version of coffee. In fact, people that are not even Gen Z are being influenced to drink iced coffee and iced versions of iced lattes in all their variants. And so now companies want to come up with ways to make coffee cold at home. What's also in your future is subscribing to this channel, liking this video, leaving a comment down, letting me know how you drink your coffee, and I hope to see you on the next video. Thank you for your time.